Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. I'm Mary Grace, and you are watching The Mary Grace Show. This is a place where you can come to get good information and good teaching and just be inspired about what's going on in current events, politics, and all around the world. I have a guest with me today who most of you probably have not met or heard of. This is not one of those huge big name marquee people, but he's one of the most amazing people I've ever met and really has so much to teach us, which is why I invited him on the show. And that is our friend Clay Staires. He is an former teacher and coach turned entrepreneur and business coach, and he also serves in the Oklahoma State Legislature. So, welcome to the show, Clay. It's great having you here.
Yeah, it's good to be here today, Mary Grace. I look forward to having a good conversation and adding some value to your listeners.
Yes, exactly. And this is exactly why I invited you on the show. You and I have had some conversations, some really good conversations. You've told me and taught me some things that have inspired me, which is what you do for a lot of your clients. And when we were last talking, we talked a little bit about the legislative process. And I do want to get into that because I think that what you have to share will help a lot of Americans understand just what happens when laws are made, when negotiations happen behind the scenes, and get some perspective on things. But before we do that, I wanted to talk a little bit about your history because, again, I think that it will inspire a lot of people. Where most of us are just regular people who are working hard, raising families, taking care of parents, taking care of grandchildren, things like that. And we're also trying to save the country. It's very much like the founding fathers, isn't it? It's just we're just in a different era.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I like the way you say, that most of us are just regular people and everything. And right here at the very beginning, I should probably say, just because I got elected into office, I never did turn in my regular person card. All right. Still a regular guy, still running a business, still working with families, still have to pay my bills, all this other kind of stuff. It's just that part of the year, my job is to go to the Capitol and talk about lawmaking. And I think for me personally, there was a lot of, oh, you're a legislator. Now you know things. It's like, not necessarily, not necessarily.
Right, right, exactly, and I think this is really we're gonna get into that in just a second, but, your history is so important because that we have a lot of people, I think, who have begun to question everything in the last few years, and you were one of those people who started out in a career that you thought probably was your path for life.
Mhm.
And then God began to work on you and, prompt you and prod you to make some changes. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think that I think it's probably a very common experience that many of us have. Um, I was a high school science teacher and coach, was loving it and was having a lot of success, had gotten awards and all that fun stuff. But there was this voice inside of me that I interpret as the Holy Spirit just saying, Clay, there's more. There's more
Mhm.
to you than you have accessed. There's more to you. And I think that is something that many of us can relate to. Again, it doesn't mean that where we are right now is a bad place. It's just we know that there's more to us than we have accessed. And looking at my position as a high school science teacher and coach, I realized, okay, this vehicle is not going to help me access that more. I need to shift vehicles. So I chose to leave teaching. And of course, all the other teachers were freaking out, going, Clay, you can't leave. It's been 15 years. You got to hold on to retirement and that whole thing. But it was really a shock to a whole lot of people. But I left teaching and I moved back to Oklahoma. My wife and I moved our girls back to Oklahoma, and we took over my family's business. And my family, I'd grown up at a place called Shepherd's Fold Ranch, just north of Tulsa, Oklahoma. And it's a Christian summer camp and retreat center that my mom and dad started back in 1972. So I came back to run the ranch. And so this was like my entrance into business type of thing. It was nonprofit. We had 25 buildings, a little over 100 acres, 20 horses. There was just a lot of moving pieces. And so it was where I first began to learn about management. I think I had always been a big visionary. You know, we hear this a lot. I'm a visionary. I'm a visionary. I'm not really the manager. I mean, not really the manager. And I've
Yeah.
grown up in that, and that's kind of what I felt like. But when I got to the ranch, I realized really quickly, okay, I better pick up a few management skills here, or this isn't going to go where we want it to go. So we were in a really bad spot when I first got there. It was one of those things, Mary Grace, where it was like, okay, either I'm here to shut this down or I'm here to prepare it for the next generation.
Wow.
And so when I came in, the first 3 years was extremely difficult because we were in such a tight spot. And it really did come down to one day in one meeting, making one decision on, are we going to shut it down or are we going to keep moving forward? And I definitely felt like the Lord had drawn me there. I'd heard clearly from the Lord, I want you to go home and clean up your father's house. So there you go. I said, I think we should keep going. And everybody around the table said, yes. And so we kept going. So my wife and I, Lisa, we stayed there for 10 years and just put things in order. Got the structure in place, got the leadership in place, got the organization in place, and so on. And but then again, Mary Grace, here it was. There's more. There's more. It's like, yeah. So I heard that voice again, and I responded to it again. And that's when I turned the ranch. I felt like I had done what the Lord had asked me to do. I had cleaned up my father's house. He didn't say, run your father's house. He just said, go home and clean it up. So I had done that. And then I left Shepherd's Fold and I started the Leadership Initiative, which is my business coaching firm. And that's when I met Clay Clark, a good friend of ours. And Clay has been my business coach for the past 12 years. I meet with him every Thursday morning. And even a coach needs a coach. And so I've been running with Clay for a long time, doing the Leadership Initiative. And I actually followed my own advice. And I built a company that could actually run without me. I built a company that I could manage from the beach. And so about 4 years ago, during all the COVID stuff and everything that was going on there, I was like everybody else, getting very frustrated, very angry on Facebook. I can't believe this is happening, But Clay and I were in a meeting. He said, I think you need to run for office. And that was the very first time I ever thought about political things, ever about actually running for office. But as soon as he said that, it was like, yep, I'll do it. And right behind that was that voice saying, yes, now you're getting it. There is more, and you need to expand. You need to expand your horizons so you can step into the more. So in 2022, I ran for office here in Oklahoma for the House of Representatives in District 66, and we won. And so I've just finished my first term. Wow, it has been quite a learning curve, but I've really enjoyed it. And I actually have an election coming up in November. I have a
Okay.
libertarian that is running against me. And so we'll have that election coming up in November. But things are going really good. I feel like first 2 years has gone really well. The district seems to have really embraced me. And so I feel very confident about November.
That
So that's
that
kind
thank
of
you.
an on ramp.
No, it's great. It's great because there's so many so many points along the way where you get an opportunity to partner with God and to take what he's whispering and turn it into a reality. And I think when people look back on their lives, they would realize that there are many, many times when God speaks to you and maybe you're not listening. Maybe you hear it and you decide that you don't want to do that. And the thing about God is he's okay. Like it's okay. It may not be optimal. It may not be all that he has for you, but had you decided to stay in teaching, God would love you anyway. But he has a lot more to accomplish through you. And one of the things that I love to do is, on the show, I think that I help people identify their destiny and then walk into it and give them the tools to do that. And you've just shown the roadmap of doing that, right? You heard a little whisper, a pretty clear voice, and then you went and acted on it, and then God opened up the next step. And sometimes we think we have to have everything laid out and understand,
Yeah.
the big picture, but God has the big picture. And he even says in Isaiah, he says, as you walk, basically, I can't remember the scripture, but he says, just don't look to the right or to the left, just walk and I will show you the way.
Yeah.
And
You
it's
will
like,
hear a voice behind you.
yeah, saying
You'll hear
walk.
a voice behind you. And I always thought that was interesting. Whether you
Yeah.
go to the right or the left, you will hear a voice behind you.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
why can't it be in front of me? I want it to be out in front of me, is
Yeah,
behind.
and I always had this picture that if you're walking along, sort of like a wooden walkway, you wouldn't get the next step or the stepping stone, whether it was a plank or a stepping stone, you don't get the next one until you pick up your foot to walk.
Yeah.
And then when you do that, God puts the stepping stone or the plank of the walkway down for you to step on. But you can't see the whole path usually when you say yes to God, which is kind of the way he likes it, because he knows
Yeah.
the end from the beginning. And you said something interesting too. You said that you hadn't really been political. And this is a point that I want to camp out on for just a second, because I think that one thing we've seen, there's a couple things that people have a misconception about when it comes to being active and taking an active role in what's happening in our communities, especially people in positions of leadership. They the term political has a very bad taste. It gives people a bad taste, especially Christians. There are many pastors who say, "Oh, I'm just not political." Well, the thing about you though and your wife is that you're biblical, and you see right from wrong, and you understand, and you're willing to fight for it. And so what you were doing during COVID, and the opinions that you had and the sense of injustice that was really affecting you and all the people around you, that was what caused you to rise up. And that part of you just couldn't stay silent any longer. And I think that's probably what prompted, Clay to say, "Hey, you should run for office." Because the thing is, when good people do nothing, the evil prevails. And so I think the fact that people have hidden behind the mantra of "I'm just not political" has really done a great harm to our country, because leaders have not been willing to step forward. That's my observation, and I'm actually glad you're not political. I would prefer that you be biblical,
Mhm.
and that you be motivated by something besides raw political ambition, which you are.
Yes, I've gotten that question often from people. Clay, what is your plan? Where are you headed next? Where are you planning to? It's like this is where I am right now.
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
never been. Uh, uh, I've never had the political ambition. I've never really been drawn toward politics, But I have always, since a young age, I've always been drawn to leadership. And
Mm,
so when people ask me, what are your plans? Where are you going next? And all that kind of stuff, it really comes down to, as far as politically, I have no idea. If there are opportunities to expand my leadership and my ability to influence, that's kind of my DNA. That's where I feel like that's where the Lord has placed me. And so if opportunities come up to expand the leadership, to
mhm.
step into, there's more, then I'm sure that I will respond to it.
Yeah.
But right now, I'm very happy with where I am, what I'm doing,
Mhm.
uh, and the people that I'm getting to do it with. It's very interesting. Uh, one of the things that I've learned in my first term is that I I I am biblical, and when I first was running and knocking on doors, it was like I'm biblical and I'm constitutional, and all these kind of
Yeah.
things, which is great. But I did not understand, and this is something for all of us to try to understand more and more, is that yeah, you can be biblical, which is awesome, and you can be constitutional, which is awesome, but the playing field that you're in is political. It is a political playing field. And so there is a strategic way to navigate
Mm,
through this thing called politics. And the I think the challenge that I am really enjoying so far, the challenge is to navigate without losing your biblical and constitutional.
right.
It's being able to navigate the political landscape without losing your soul and without becoming a different person. But uh, but it uh, and I will let you know, it's not easy. It's not easy. Just, well, I'm just going to go over and be me. Okay, well, you can be me, but man, we got to figure out what me is. And again, if I want to get anything done in Oklahoma in the legislation, I have to get at least 51 other House of Representatives members to go with me. 51. And then if that happens, now I've got to get at least 27. I'm sorry. I've got to get at least 27 senators to go with me. And then I've got to get a governor to go with me. So the idea, you may
Yeah.
start with an idea, but to get that many people to agree with you so that it can actually happen, you have to form it, shape it, and maybe cut this out of it and add this into it. And a lot of times the end product is different than where you started. But there's the challenge. I just want to make sure that I don't completely, you know, sell out just to get something
Right.
passed.
Right.
Just
And I think I wanna talk about that because I think that's going to be what you've experienced and the things that you've learned and the takeaways that you have from this, I think have a broader application uh, for Americans to understand and to have a little grace maybe for their elected representatives and also there may be somebody listening who is being called into this and your experience could be just what they need to see and hear about from a little bit more detailed perspective to understand and know, well, this is what I'm getting into and this is how this works. I want to take a quick break and then we'll come back and we'll unpack that more in depth. So,
sounds good.
everybody, I want to encourage everybody just to make sure that you understand this is a listener supported show and we have affiliate partners here on Mary Grace Media that you can shop with. You can partner with them. And anytime you do that, you help support the show and you also help support America First companies. The easiest way to find them is to go to my website, marygracemedia.com. Click on the shopping tab. There's a lot of choice there. Today, I want to highlight one of our friends who also is well known to Clay. These are our friends Grid Down, Chow Down. They are in Oklahoma. They've been in the studio many times there, where Clay and Clay have their offices, and they produce amazing this freeze dried beef. It's ground beef that it was a direct answer to the shortages that people were having during the pandemic. And this is a 1 pound pack of beef. You can rehydrate it. And when you purchase it, you can stockpile it, you can cook with it right away, but you're supporting an American farmer and you're helping to keep that farm from being bought out by corporate interest. And I know this is something that's near and dear to Clay's heart as well, because these are things that are at issue even in the legislature. So let me just play this short clip. You're going to love this farmer. You're going to love these guys. And when you go to the website, griddownchowdown.com, use promo code Mary Grace. We'll be right back. Take a listen to this.
This is my brother, and I'm Nace, and we're at the Grid Down Chowdown, and this is Larry, who is a local rancher that we've partnered with. Now, Larry, you've been ranching for over 4 generations, is that correct?
That's correct. I'm 3rd generation, my son's 4th generation, and I've got some grandkids that are 5th generation.
Man, that's awesome.
We've been here for quite a while, yeah.
All right, now, Larry, your cattle is grass-fed, grass-finished, and pasture-raised, just like God intended them to be.
Yes, because I want to know what's in that animal,
Right.
what it's been fed, and so the only way to do that is for us to keep it all natural, just like God has done it for years and years and years, thousands of years.
How has partnering up with us helped you and your ranch?
Well, it's allowed us to develop a market that we didn't have before, one that can get directly to the consumer, and that's great.
And just remember, more importantly, with every package that you buy, we put a salvation track in there. So from the bottom of our hearts, we thank you for allowing us to do what we believe that God has us here to do. And just remember, God loves you. He really does.
Amen.
Isn't that just the best? So remember, you're going to go to griddownchowdown.com and use promo code Mary Grace. So now back to our conversation. We have Clay Staires with us. He is a business coach, entrepreneur, and also he serves in the Oklahoma House of Representatives in the 66th district. Clay, doesn't Route 66 go through Oklahoma? Just coincidentally.
Oh, yeah.
I think it does.
Does.
So you guys are kind of right there.
It goes right through my district.
Yeah. District
it's kind of cool. Yeah, it
So
comes
there,
right through Tulsa. Yeah.
Yeah, there must be something significant about that. So let's talk a little bit though about the just about what you were saying with the legislative process, because you go in as a person who wants to adhere to biblical principles. You have a conscience. You're a regular person who's deeply caring about your family and your community, and you go into this political process. And I think that what you've experienced is a microcosm of what happens in DC. And so I would like for you to share with our listeners, for example, one of the things that I've learned is that sometimes we hear about bills that get put forth, and people get kind of in a kerfuffle about it, because they think, oh no, this is a done deal. But just there are hundreds of bills that get proposed, but it doesn't mean that they even get brought to the floor for consideration. They have to go through markup. They have to go through a long process. And that's something that people don't understand. But once it does come forward, it has to go through the process that you described. So can you unpack that for us just a little bit? When you have an idea, that means that you want to sponsor a bill, for example, that would eventually become law. So talk us through that. And as you're listening out there, I want you to think about the process that's taking place at the higher level in DC and all of the players involved, because it's very complex.
Yeah, there are. I love the way you said there are hundreds of bills. Okay, I'll go ahead and up that. There are thousands of bills. Just here in Oklahoma, last year we had 4,000, just under 4,000 bills that as a legislature we had to go through in 16 weeks. Wow. So we have 16 weeks to go through 4,000 bills, and that doesn't include the number of bills that were just the year before that. So this is just in one one session, one spring here in Oklahoma. We legislate from February 1st until the end of May. And so we have 16 weeks to go through all of these bills. And wow, I'll try to stay on point. All right. There's going to be all kinds of off ramps here for me to go down. I'm going to try to stay on point.
Okay, I'll keep you on track.
Thank you very much. But yeah, so I think that there definitely is a narrative. Okay, you and I are very familiar with it. I'm sure your listeners are too. There is definitely a narrative globally and even nationally that is trying to move us down a certain path. For us as conservative believers, we don't like that path. We would like to go down another path, but the narrative is pushing us down a certain path. So first thing to understand that I didn't understand is there are bills that will be presented that even the author knows these have no chance of going anywhere. But I'm going to present them because I've got somebody in my district that has been hounding me about this. So I'm going to present the bill, and then rather than telling my constituent, it's not going anywhere, so I'm not going to write that bill, what I can now do is say, hey, I ran the bill. I ran it, but all of them said no. I can blame it on somebody else. So that is very, very common, where a legislator will run a bill knowing that it has no chance of going anywhere, but they just want to get it out there so someone will see it. And so taking that concept and taking this narrative, if I have a nefarious narrative that I want to play, that I want to contribute to, I can simply just launch out an idea. Well, I'm going to run some legislation that is going to make abortion legal up until they're 5 years old. I mean, of course, that's crazy. It has no chance of going anywhere. But the people that run the narrative will grab that as if it is already a law. And
Okay, that's the key.
Yes.
Okay, yes, because it has to do with optics, and it also has to do with what we know of as the information war that we're in. Because if you can get people focused on something that really doesn't even have a chance, then you can get their focus off of the other things that are going to go through.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's the plan. Look over here, look over here, look over here type of thing is what's going on. And I had a bill. Also, what goes on is a bill will be put forth, and the people that don't like that legislation will create a narrative against it and completely warp what that legislation is all about. But all anybody hears is the warped narrative. And so all of a sudden, everybody thinks you're evil. What's going on? I thought we elected you to fight for this, that, and the other thing, and now you're over here doing that. It's like, no, that's not what I'm doing at all. You're listening to a warped narrative.
Yes.
And
yes.
so there's a whole lot of that that goes on to try to influence the other legislators that will be voting on this.
Okay.
Because other legislators are going, I don't want to vote on that because it's going to cause so much controversy, and I might not get reelected. And so all of a sudden, there's a fear that seeps in, and that fear, as with any human, that fear can easily be manipulated. If I can get somebody afraid, I can manipulate them. And
interesting.
Yeah, so I have seen, and I can only imagine what goes on at the national capitol, but here in Oklahoma, at our state capitol, fear is like a currency. People deal in fear, and they trade one fear for another fear. They will transact in fear. And so as believer, and this even happens to believers, people that love the Lord, people that stand on Christian principles, a phrase that I've heard way too often that is very disappointing, I guess is the only word. But a phrase that I hear often is, I'm a Christian, but. I'm a Christian, but. And I don't know how to process that phrase. It's like, I'm a Christian, so here's what I'm going to do. But there is fear that gets involved. And so it's like, yeah, I'm a Christian. I love the Lord. I go to church. I'm a pastor. How about that? I'm a pastor, but I really think that we should not do this. I think we should, because that's just not going to be good. There's going to be this. People may get upset. There can be all kinds of excuses after the but. But as believers, we just let our butt get in the way. And that's a problem,
Yeah.
That's a real problem. And so,
Yeah.
so now you've got this piece of legislation. And as you said, it usually starts like in December, we have to put forth what we're planning on putting out for legislation coming in the spring. And the newspapers will jump on all of that. They're going to make this a law. It's like, no, we're just going to throw it out. There's no chance of this thing becoming a law, but we want to just contribute to the narrative of fear. Okay. And so that's something to be very aware of as a citizen. If you're reading something in the media, be careful. If you're hearing something on social media, be very careful. I would say your best bet is you need to get to know who your representative is. You need to know who your senator is, whether it's at the state level or at the national level. So you can actually contact them and say, this is what I'm hearing. Is that correct?
Well, also,
I would say probably 75% of the time, what you're hearing is not correct.
the text of the bill is also available for people to access. And this is one thing at the federal level, it's on the Federal Register. And if you know the bill number, then you can go and you can look it up and it will tell you what stage it's in. And for example, if it's just been proposed, that it hasn't even been brought to the floor. And then, or maybe it's been brought, but now it's in markup, which means that they're going to go through and make a lot of changes, and it may not even be the same as how it started out. It's not going to be the same as how it started out. And that's where the narrative comes in as well. These influence operations are meant to get people riled up and in some ways curious, but at the same time, we want people to know the actual information and not what they're being told. And I think a great example of that is the Project 2025 that is being pushed as a piece of Trump policy, but it's not. But there's been a lot of spin around it. But another example is I think that the Democrats were trying to, the Congress was trying to pass a border bill, but it had a lot of poison pills in it. And it was something that Trump was not happy about. And so they're trying to blame him for interfering and killing this bill, even though he's no longer president, right? But it's because of the things that would have come out of it. It actually would have hamstrung him for years to come on certain issues. And then, of course, they also bring in issues that don't relate in any way to the crux of the bill, right? I guess they call that pork, that they add stuff
and
into
that goes on at the federal level. At the state level in Oklahoma, at least, all of our bills have to be what we call germane. All the content in it has to be about one thing. You can't pull in. At the state level, you can't pull in a whole bunch of other stuff. Well, what's in it? Well, I don't know. You got to pass it to see what's in it. There's none of that going on at the state level. But again, once you've got this piece of legislation, this idea, then again, bunny trail, not going to go down it. But once you have this idea, there are multiple places along the path, Mary Grace, where a single person can shut it down. One person can shut it down for the entire state. And I found myself in that position in my very first 7 days as a
You were
legislator.
that person.
I was that person. When I first decided to run, I was going, I
Yeah,
want to be at the table. And next thing you know, I was appointed as a
you're at the
vice
table.
chairman of a committee. And then the chairman called me and said, hey, we need to get together and look at all of the bills that have come to our committee and make a decision on which ones we're going to hear or not. I'm going, oh my gosh, it's just me and him. There's going to be just two of us that are going to make decisions on what bills are going to go forward and
Okay.
which ones are going to die right here. So it was like, oh, this is exciting. I was all nervous and everything. I went into his office. He took that entire stack of bills that were given to our committee, pushed him across the desk to me and said, Clay, I want you to cut this in half in the next 3 days. And so it's like, now I've only been in office for 7 days. And just so everybody knows, there isn't a class you take, intro to being a legislator. No, you just start and good luck. Hang on. It's like being in the chute, pulling down the hat, nodding your head, and them opening the gate. And it's just survive. And so here I am. I was the vice chairman of the finance committee, which again is like for the finance committee of the state of Oklahoma. And so I had to cut this list of bills. So that night, I'm literally in my apartment with my wife going, honey, I am actually reading tax law right now and deciding which bills are going to go forward. So there's probably 3 or 4 different spots where one person can blow up a bill. So you can imagine that there's a lot of conversation going on between legislators, because Mary Grace, if you could shut down my bill, I want to have a conversation with you to make sure you don't shut down my bill.
Mm-hmm.
So, hey, can we get together and have coffee? Hey, I want to come to your office. Let's talk. Hey, you could shut down my bill, but I'm on a committee over here with one of your bills. I'll get your bill through if you get mine. There's a lot of, and there's the politics that goes on. Does that make sense?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Because I think that on the one hand, for example, I consider myself a straight shooter. But I think in a situation that you're talking about, there's a lot of people skills required.
Oh my
And
gosh.
so you
Yeah.
don't want to make people mad
Yeah.
because then they don't want to help you. It's really you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours scenario, like it or not.
Yeah.
And this
And that's
right?
the playing field. That's the playing
Mhm.
field that we're on.
Right, right.
And
Yeah.
before I was a legislator, it was easy to be, I can't believe they're doing that. If I was there, I would make this happen. I would do
Mhm.
this. I would do this. It's kind of like the Monday morning quarterback. I could have thrown that ball. It's like, really, could you? And so now that I'm in the system and I'm
Yeah.
in this world, it's like, okay, I think you're exactly right. There are a lot of people skills. And if I
Right.
come in and just start yelling and screaming and demanding it has to be this way, then you won't get anything done. So
Yeah.
I've come to really appreciate the process that our forefathers put together, the process of the checks and balances, the process that legislation has to go through to actually get something passed. Yes, there will be I think our system kind of sets itself up to have this kind of swinging back and forth going
Mhm.
on. And when it's swinging in my favor, oh, I love it. This is awesome. But when it swings out of my favor, I want to change things really fast.
Right.
But that could be really dangerous for a government
Mhm.
to have fast change. That's called a coup. And usually those
Yeah.
involve a lot of
Yeah.
blood. It's
Now
not a good thing.
I have a couple quick questions. We're coming up on
Sure.
time, and I want to ask you: do you have situations where the governor comes to a chairperson or co-chair of a committee and says, "Give me a bill for this," for whatever reason? Maybe they have a donor, a lobbyist somebody that wants to get something done. We hear about governors who are on the take,
Hmm.
or controlled by foreign countries, for example. And then, there's legislation passed or projects that get passed, and you wonder, like, how did that get passed? Has that been your experience? Have you seen your governor? And maybe you don't want to put him on the hot seat, but
Oh no,
um,
yeah, I would say definitely that happens.
yeah,
Definitely that happens, and I think that's awesome. Unless I'm against what he wants,
yeah,
it just comes down to that. It's like if I don't like what he wants, then all of a sudden I can easily interpret that as, well, I don't like what he wants, therefore it's wrong, it's evil. It's like, well, I don't know, maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but whether it is or not isn't just because I don't agree with it, you know.
mhm,
But yeah, our governor here in Oklahoma has multiple times said, guys, bring me any bill that you have that cuts personal income tax and I'll pass it. Bring me anything you've got. Well, I'm in favor of cutting personal income tax,
yeah,
you know? And so it's
yeah,
like, all right, let's do it,
okay,
and so I'm in favor of that. And it is good to know that a person that will have the final say on whether this bill is going to go anywhere or not is for it,
yeah,
you know? And
for sure,
so
yeah,
there are other bills that our governor has said, yeah, if you bring me any bill about this, there's no way I'm signing it. It's not going anywhere, you know?
yeah,
But again, the governor doesn't have the final authority. If he approves or disapproves, it can come back to the legislation
mhm,
and we can override it.
yeah.
And we actually did that a few times, and now you're sitting there going, okay, do I want to hack the governor off and
Yeah,
override what he just did? Or
right.
do I want to stay with the governor? Where am I going to be on that? And if I do this, will he do that to my bill? So these are just dynamics that go on
Mhm.
at the Capitol, and I'm fascinated by it, Mary Grace. Just
Yeah.
the leadership challenges that are involved in it. Uh, I love I
Mhm.
love it. I'm really enjoying it right now, and
Yeah.
I've had a great time with it.
It really drives home the importance of having men and women of integrity in
There you go.
office.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to, that you don't devolve into petty differences and squabbles. "Well, he did this to my bill, so I'm gonna do this to his."
Yeah.
Because if you're there as a representative for the people and you're defending the Constitution, that should be where the buck stops. And yet we've seen at a national level, it couldn't be further from the truth. And this is one of the reasons that I wanted to talk to you, was because I hope that by hearing this, people can get some perspective on what is happening with any president, but specifically with President Trump, because what was happening to him when he came into DC as an outsider is that he was going up against myriad forces that were working against him, and he had a majority in the House and Senate, and even they were working against him. And so this is what I want people to understand when it comes to getting legislation passed. First of all, he's not a dictator. No president should be, even though sometimes they act like it. And we don't want that. We don't want everything done by fiat. We don't want it done by executive order. We want it done at the legislative level, because it's for the people and by the people that are represented to go there. But as we come into this election season, I want people to be mindful that the person that you want in the White House is not the be all end all to make things happen. Just, if you take what Clay just described and you take it to an exponential level, you put it on turbo. That is what President Trump has faced and what he will face going into office. There are many, many people who don't want him there. And the way that I describe it, when people criticize him for not draining the swamp, in his first term. I think he did remarkably well considering. But the way I describe it is that you've got let's say you've got, Aaron Rodgers on the field and he's trying to get the ball down the field. Like that's his job is to get the ball down the field. Well, you've got the offensive line and you got the defensive line. Well, if your O-line is tackling you every time you get the ball, you're not going to make progress. And that's actually what was happening to President Trump. I mean, picture it. You're the people, the very people that are supposed to be on your side, defending you, knocking out the defenders and helping you move the ball or taking you out. And that's what was happening to him. And I think that if you can picture what Clay has told us and described to us about the process, hopefully it will make a lot more sense to you. And even when you think about your representative and you think about what they're going through and what positions they're in, it's not simple at all. It's a very complex, people-centered, relationship-centered, ego-centered, often ego-driven process that requires, I would like supernatural intervention every single day, and men and women of integrity. So as you pray for your legislators, as you pray for representatives, pray for them to walk in integrity, to walk in the ways of the Lord and not to be swayed by the ego, the fear, uh, these elements that will come in every single day to derail them from their original calling and purpose for being in office.
Amen.
That's my mic drop on
Yeah.
that.
Amen.
But I wanted to give you an opportunity to tell people about your business as well, because again, that's your regular person life outside of being in the legislature. So tell us a little bit about where to find your business and how to connect with you. You do the same thing Clay Clark does, but you have the Clay Staires personality and approach, which is very different from Clay.
Yes, I've heard that a lot. That we are very different personalities. But yeah, I am the only Clay Staires on the internet. So if you just go onto Google and type in ClayStaires, I'm the only Clay Staires that's going to pop up. So you'll see all my legislative stuff and
Awesome.
my business stuff and social media and all that kind of thing. But yeah, I've been doing the business coaching for the past 12 years. I think that my natural gifting is coaching, teaching, and mentoring. I'm still kind of wondering how does that fit at the Capitol, because that's my natural gifting. And but I've been doing this for 12 years with business owners that are in a spot of saying, man, I've got a good business. I've got a great idea. I'm even making money. I just don't know how to organize it. I don't have any time, and more business means more craziness. And that's where I come in with helping with management and leadership of your company. And I've worked with hundreds of business owners all over the country. In fact, I've got a client coming up right after this call that I'll be hopping with that's up in Boston and I'll be spending some time with. But it is so rewarding and so fun to work with business owners that have a great idea. They've got a great skill. It's just that skill in their business has taken over their life. And
Yeah.
it's like they are driven by outside forces that they're just going, this isn't as fun as it used to be. And I want to help return the enjoyment of your company and get you to a place where you can have financial freedom. You can also have time freedom to enjoy the financial freedom. And yeah,
Excellent.
so that's kind of my move. You can find me at claystairs.com.
Yep.
And let me also give you my cell phone number. Feel free to give me a call if you're a business owner out there right now and you're struggling with people, or you're struggling with organization, or you're struggling with cash flow. Give me a call. I'd be glad to talk with you. 918-798-0852. 918-798-0852. Give me a ring. It's actually my cell phone. We'll have a conversation.
Excellent.
And I've got a couple books that you may find interesting
Yes.
as well. One is called Grow. If you're in a spot where you feel like, man, I know that I am the primary limiting factor in my business. I know that I'm the bottleneck. All right. There's a book called Grow, a field guide to personal growth. And it's a book that I've got. It's on Amazon. Want to encourage anybody to go out and get that book. If you've got employees that you're having a hard time communicating with them and you're looking for a tool that will help you communicate with them, I've got another book called Just Don't Suck.
That's a
And
good one. I
yeah,
love that one.
it's a
Yeah.
great book. All of my
Yeah.
clients use it as part of their onboarding with new employees, just so you can get on the same
Mhm.
page with this is what a good employee looks like.
Yep.
And it's a great book for
Yeah.
graduates of high school or college or something like that.
It's
Just
so
don't suck.
good, yeah. And I've used some of your resources as well because Clay Clark,
Yeah.
uses some of them, and it's just excellent. And for those of you who are wondering, I've had a little bit of coaching with Clay Staires, and just some good conversations. And he's the real deal, and his wife too. They're just very solid and wonderful people, love the Lord and love people, and are committed to helping you get unstuck or advance in where it is that you want to go. So please contact him if that's you. If you're getting started, you're in the middle of it, you're trying to figure out how to exit, and still, not implode. He's your guy. So thank you again, Clay Staires, for being here. It's claystairs.com. And you can also find him at the Oklahoma legislature. So if you're in his district, he's your guy.
Oh,
And
yeah.
pray for him, and his family. And we will see you back here on the show. We've got a quick message before we leave. Remember to support our sponsors and to take part with all of our affiliate partners. We will see you back here on the Mary Grace Show next time.
Listen, we're finally bringing the most requested offer ever. Get the queen size premium MyPillow, now only $19.98. MyPillow is made with patented adjustable fill. It adjusts to your exact individual needs regardless of your sleep position. It helps keep your neck aligned and holds its shape all night long so you get the best sleep of your life. But that's not all. Get our 6-piece kitchen or bath towel sets only $25. Our brand new mattress topper as low as $69.98. Get our famous MyPillow bed sheets for as low as $25 and so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to get huge discounts on all MyPillow products, including the premium queen size MyPillow, only $19.98. That's the lowest price ever. Don't delay, order today. From all of us here at MyPillow, thanks America!